Am I the astronaut for calling off the wedding after my fiance joked he was trapped in this marriage? My fiance proposed 3 months ago. It was a beautiful, intimate proposal, and I loved the idea of telling our future kids about his proposal. I was really excited to plan my wedding. I work in the events industry, and this sort of thing is my passion. My fiance has ADHD and finds planning very boring. His default response is, whatever you want. So I've had full creative freedom, but I am a little sad he didn't contribute to anything, even the color scheme. My fiance and our friends were talking about the wedding. I was telling them some of my plans to cut costs down, and my friend made a joke that it was a good thing my fiance locked me down because I'm a professional. My fiance joked that he didn't lock me down. I locked him up. He said he was trying to enjoy his last days of freedom before I trapped him in the marriage. Generally not a good thing to say to your fiance. I felt really upset that he didn't acknowledge my hard work in planning the wedding, and because he joked that I was trapping him into a marriage and that I pushed him into getting married. I decided we should call off the wedding for now. He wasn't interested in getting married, and I don't want to marry someone who doesn't enthusiastically want to get married. I talked to my fiance and said that I'm going to call off the wedding plans and we could reevaluate if he really wants to get married or even stay in this relationship. We haven't sent out our RSVPs or booked too many vendors yet, so I want to call it off before it becomes an even more expensive mistake. He was very upset that I called off the wedding and said he was just joking. He said it's normal to joke about this. Am I the astronaut? Edit. I've talked with him about his lack of enthusiasm about anything. I don't even need him to have initiative, but an opinion would be nice. He said he doesn't care about the details at all. I let it go after I felt like I was nagging him to have an opinion on something. The joke made me realize that he probably doesn't want to get married. That's where his lack of enthusiasm comes from. We are pretty early into wedding planning, and I want to call it off because weddings are expensive, and I'm not sinking more of my money into uncertainty. Figuring out whether he wants to get married will take time, and time is money. I can work with him on figuring that out, but I can't keep a wedding timeline with that. Okay. I think there are two sides to this, right? There's the one side that is we could go this route and we could say, okay, you brozoed up here, bro. You don't joke about that kind of shit when clearly your fiance takes this kind of thing very, very, very seriously. You screwed up, and her response in that case would be an NTA. There's another path, though. There is another path here, and I think it is this. I'm not looking at specifically just what is happening with the wedding. I'm looking at the long-term success of this relationship, and here's the problem that I see with OP's actions here. What I see happening with OP's actions is that when she perceived there to be a problem, rather than communicating through it, she took action and canceled this thing, right? This is something that you discover very early on in marriage or in a relationship. This is one of the hard things that I think you push through. I think you communicate before taking action. She took action, said she wanted to call off the wedding, and then communicated what she had done, which he got upset about. I think the smarter play here would have been to say, hey, let's talk about what you said earlier and really dive into that, because I understand you think you were joking, but I feel like there might be some truth in jest with that. Or it really bothered me, so we need to work through that conversation here. And that, coupled with your lack of interest in anything wedding related, has me thinking you really don't want to get married. So let's talk about this and figure out where we're really at before we take another step forward. Instead, she took action without having that conversation first. And I feel like to have a long-term successful relationship, you've got to start having conversations first before taking drastic action. So for the long-term success of the relationship, I don't feel like this was the right move. This might have been the right move given the circumstances here, where he just brozoed up and maybe he really doesn't give a shit. And maybe he does feel like he's being forced into it. I feel like she could have found that out for real if she had waited to take action and had the conversation first. And that's general health of relationship, not necessarily wedding related. If people had good communication, we wouldn't have 80% of our stories. You're right. All right. So just forget what I said about trying to heal the communication part of this. Keep screwing it up because we need stories. Stories are ammo for content for us. And she's NTA here for doing what she's doing. I do think there was another play that could have been really good for them growing as a couple. Jeannie, yeah, good point here. Jeannie H says, no, they aren't ready. 100%. No matter what, they aren't ready. They aren't ready for this. Now, most people aren't ready whenever they get married, and year one of being married is really hard because it's really hard to be ready to spend your life with someone when you haven't done that yet, right? So, I mean, Katie Thunder and I, year one was really hard because we're learning to communicate. We're learning communication styles. We're learning how to work through big problems and serious conversations. You don't learn those things with a person until you go through them. This could have been an opportunity. We did determine NTA on this for her calling off the wedding. Again, though, I think if you look at this as if you look in the long-term success of the relationship, this probably could have been handled differently. But in this specific, really just micro-focused on the wedding part of this, yeah, I mean, you're NTA. NTA.